Good evening, everyone. Welcome to FGM Ecast for your Thursday night. Thursday night is ANZCAR Cup night, and it is the chase. We are at Talladega for one of the fastest races of the year, and I am looking forward to this one. Carl Withy joins me, the man, the mystery machine, potentially the illegal alien, but no, nonetheless, Carl Withy joins me tonight. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, Stuart. Good evening, everybody. Yes, hopefully I'll still be here next week. We'll soon find out, I'm sure. But yes, we are at Talladega, baby. One of the most famous tracks on the NASCAR series, probably next to Daytona. It is an absolute classic. A super speedway, of course. This place is very fast, very long, and it is home to one of those things we call a big one.
Oh, absolutely it is. And we were here a week or two ago with the Xfinity cars. It may have even only been last week, actually. We're here with the Xfinity cars. They all merged together at the moment because, of course, I'm in Victoria, the state of eternal lockdown. So days don't mean anything, colours have lost their meaning, and everything tastes the same. But we were here for a really exciting finish in the Xfinity series, a race that ended up being won by Maddie Ray. We actually pulled that out and highlighted it in a video by itself. So good it was the last 6 minutes of 6 laps, I should say, of that race. So I'm expecting a similar thing here tonight, Carl. You've been in the chat with the drivers in practice, and they told you though that it might be a little bit tough out there tonight.
Yeah, cars are very much stalling a little bit as soon as they get out from the draft behind the other drivers, which is a normal thing, but a little bit more so than normal. So it seems like the aero package this week is a little bit, it's just a little bit funny tonight, and very much causing the cars to just suffer a little bit, stall out a little bit once they pop out from behind the draft. So that will make the twin lines important. Running a second line is going to be a crucial part here. And track position is going to be a key feature as well, as we saw with Maddie Ray, and having a willing participant to help you out as well, somebody that's going to help you out with a little bit of a push, could be the difference between winning a race and coming last.
I was about to say, having a teammate or two to rely on is going to be very, very important here tonight. And I did see during practice the Natari team all out there having an absolute crack in the draft with one another, and yeah, you just see those cars as soon as they pull out of the draft just die in terms of pace. So it's going to be very, very important to be patient. I think tonight is going to be the word, and manage your race to get to the end, to get to the big dance right at the end of this race. If you are joining us for the first time, you are on FGM Ecast, your E-place for pace, and we are with the ANZCAR Cup Series. We're in the chase. We've got 6 rounds, including this one to go. We've got a break next week, effectively the mid-chase break, before we head into those final 5 rounds that are going to be exciting to watch. As it's a mixture of some lefty and righty, as well as a whole heap of left.
Yeah, that's it. Well, a well-deserved break for drivers and commentators and camera operators, so we're looking forward to that one. It's nice to get a little bit of a night off here and there now and again, but a little bit of a rest is always welcome. Riley Curtis sporting a fantastic new paint job, very easy to spot as well in that very pretty in pink car. So very nice job there from Riley Curtis Design as well, and bringing out another absolute stunning paint job.
I was about to say, changes colours more times than a rainbow does Riley Curtis, but that's okay. Keeps us on our toes, and some pretty impressive liveries there as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Riley Curtis is 1/8 chameleon, so he often changes colours depending on the track. So it's one of his talents there. But no, absolutely great to see, and nice to see a nice, easy car to spot as well. We do like cars that are slightly more stand out than others. It makes it easier to spot them through the pack.
Just to play on something that we've spoken about a lot, Carl, ad nauseum actually, which is unusual. Steve Williams, Josh Mickelmore at the moment, identical lap times at the front of our field. So, of course, there is qualifying to come here. It's just practice, but Vickers and Clark on identical laps, Dyson and Hedersheed on identical laps, Taylor and Martin on identical laps, and then we've got a trio, Donnelly, Danny G, and Scotty Griffiths on identical laps as well. So to say qualifying is going to be close is an understatement.
Yeah, that's it. It's a bit of a common theme in ANZCAR recently, the identical lap times. Big smash up there between a few cars. I saw Kay Donnelly and JCW caught up in that one. They just got caught up a little bit with that one, and it looked very easy to have happen here because you're going to be running very close to each other as well. Of course, it's an important race to get right. We are going to be running a fair few laps tonight, and look, you've got to be in it to win it as well. So you've got to make sure you keep that car nice and clean to the end of the race. You don't want to get too much damage, too much debris on there, and really sort of cause yourself a bit of trouble towards the end of the race, because that's when you're going to be wanting a fast car to try and get that little bit of draft, see if you can get a bit of a slide job underneath somebody and try and snatch that victory from people. Of course, you've got to make sure you don't cross that yellow line, because if you do, you will get penalised for it.
Absolutely. So, apologies to anyone who jumped on a little bit early. We're just doing some testing on the stream just to see if we can change a couple of things up. So, if you did jump on, then you would have seen a little bit of practice going on. Some tunes, but back into the live stream now. So, thanks for rejoining the stream as we've got Phil Otto on screen at the moment. A minute 40 to go before we do get into qualifying, and then at the switchover between qualifying and the race start, we're going to have Edward Foster with a pre-recorded interview that Carl carried out with him during the week. So as we continue to make our way through the 11 drivers involved in the chase this year, just with some more information, a bit of a behind the scenes, get to know the drivers behind the wheel. And we continue that series with Edward Foster at what we'll effectively call half-time here tonight.
Yeah, that's it. Series defending champion from last season, of course, Edward Foster. Didn't have the best of starts to the year, and we talk a little bit about that. And things got a little bit better last time out. And again, that's something we mentioned. One thing to look at here at Talladega, as we were just watching Phil Otto, is the speed difference. You know, these cars will be doing around about just shy of 300 kilometers per hour out there on their own, you know, dropping down to around about the 296 mark, sort of mid-corner, late corner, and then getting up to about the 300 kilometers per hour as they get across the line. But when you're running in a pack, you'll be running up towards about the 315, 317 kilometers per hour mark, and that's the difference that a pack makes. If you're stuck out on your own, you are in real big trouble. And of course, the big thing about qualifying is you're out there on your own. So Phil Otto is doing a good thing right now of just getting that practice in now on his own without a draft partner, just getting that qualifying lap in, for his eye in for that qualifying lap. So he's hoping to get a good qualifying result tonight. And all those guys that have been practicing in the packs, they can sometimes struggle when they go out there for that that double qualifying lap, because they don't have a draft partner with them.
Love how much better the cars look with that little extension on the bobtail as well. So we've got that on tonight, of course, being a high-speed track. Who are we liking tonight, Carl? Who are we going to ride on board with for a lap around Talladega?
Oh, let's see, as we wait for the cars to actually go out. I was going to say, as I furiously flip through, seeing who's around out there. Tristan Cock.
Tristan Cock tonight? No worries at all. Let's find Tristan in the list. Why? There he is there, just under the driver I was looking at. So, of course, I can't see him for looking. Anyway, so we're on board with Tristan Cock. The 550 of Tristan. That's an interesting number choice. One day we'll ask him why he's head that far north of 1. But he has, and he's running around in the Mustang. Very familiar blue livery.
That's it. It's been a relatively strong season for Tristan in the Cup, and had a few starts this season, 13 starts in the Cup. Of course, it is all about getting in as well. We are locked to 30 cars in the Cup Series, so you sort of have to qualify for it, and that can be tricky at a track like this. Now, there are 20 cars that are locked in sort of all out, so the chase drivers, of course, and then cars with a good safety record, and then the final 10 spots are free and open. So let's start this lap. So Talladega, very late start finish line, as you notice, getting into turn 1, very high banking. Keeping the speeds up through here is crucial. You're going to probably get the fastest lap on the second lap. the first lap is generally just building up the speed still. That is just how long and how fast this track is. You sort of almost need an extra lap to build up that speed. Big long back straight, as we can see, going into turns 3 and 4, of course. Again, very high angle banking here. Talladega, the home to one of the fastest NASCAR qualifying lap in history. So, you know, it is the fastest place that NASCAR goes to. And then across the tri-oval section here. So this is the bit where you can gain a little bit of speed just dropping below that yellow line on the qualifying lap. And as you can see here, there's the start-finish line. So it's really at the end of that tri-oval section. So this should be the faster lap for Tristan Cock, and he's going to try and keep that speed up, keeping nice and low on the track to try and keep the track as short as possible. Fairly high angular degree of banking here as well, and with about 33 degrees of banking sort of throughout the sections, about 16 degrees on the tri-oval. So it is a fairly steep banked corner, and if you run up that corner you do lose a little bit of speed because you're going uphill effectively. So you want to keep nice and low here and try and keep it as tight to that line as possible, but not going beneath it too much, because you can get the car a little bit unsettled because of that banking, and when that happens you get a little bit loose. Now for the final lap, you know, you can just dip it below that tri-oval section, try again for that faster lap, and across the line we go, and we do get a slightly better lap, I think.
Yeah, 51.39 there for Tristan Cock as his best lap, so he will be down in 24th as it stands at the moment. Jason Martin has done a 51.25, and dare we be surprised that there are 3 identical laps at the top of the timing charts, followed by 3 more. I did make that 4 identical laps at the top of the timing charts. Let's turn this on so people can see that I am not joshing at all. Scotty Griffiths pops in.
Again.
Bang.
Scotty Griffiths has become an absolute star in qualifying of late. Again, taking another pole position. And that was by some margin, 51.233. A couple of thousandths faster than Jason Martin there. That was a lot of speed taken into that one. Jason Martin managed a 51.252 in the end, and then we had Damon Stockton on a 51.275, Greg Spencer 51.276, Hamish Gallagher 51.276, Josh Micklemore 51.278. It is very close indeed, barely anything between them. You know, it is absolutely nothing between those guys. The biggest gap that sort of I can see, it really does not drop much further back until you get towards the back of the pack, really, where somebody's made a bit of a mistake. You know, it's absolutely, you know, 10th of a second between the first. Well,
down to P20.
Yeah, that's it. It is absolutely nothing out there, and it is just gaining that little bit of extra speed. But it looks like Scotty Griffiths has done it again tonight, taking out another pole in the ANZCAR series. Fantastic job from him. Jason Martin will be starting second, but Damon Stockton and Hamish Gallagher in fourth, and Greg Spencer in fifth.
Yeah, it's an impressive qualifying effort there. So it's going to be good to see. There's a fair bit of variety there as well, Carl. Obviously, with Stockton jumping up, that's no surprise, really. Greg Spencer up into fifth. That's a good result. Ben Vickers, again, impressive in qualifying, sitting in seventh. Raymond Yeager up into eighth. Jason Hardigan, of course, a long-time veteran of the series, but hasn't been running as much this year, into ninth. So there's a few mixed... there's a bit of a mixed result there. Neil Pearson down in 12th. And Andrew Dyson down in 22nd. That's an unusually low result for him.
Absolutely. So we will head off to the race session soon, and between that we'll have the little bit of an interview.
Yeah, so we'll jump over to that now. An interview with Edward Foster, carried out by none other than Carl Withy himself. And we will join you on the other side of this in the warm-up before the race official gets underway. So don't go too far. We'll be back with the race start in around about 10 minutes' time.
Good evening, everybody. I am here tonight with Mr. E53, Edward Foster of Natari Autosport.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thanks, Ed. Yeah, and how about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. We obviously one of my favourite tracks coming up tonight, but yeah, apart from that, yeah, going not too bad.
Well, I mean, if history repeats itself, it might slip into a semi-favourite position, probably at the bottom of the list. But just going on history repeating itself, Las Vegas last time out went very well for you.
Yeah, it went all right, didn't it? I've always kind of run pretty well there, so and I think, as I said after that race, had a really good run there in the Xfinity. Probably should have won that if not for the fact that it became a fuel mileage thing. So yeah, went into it pretty confident, and yeah, just picked my way through as I needed to and drove off with it. So yeah, if I can do that a couple more times this season, I'll be very happy.
Well, it would be nice. I mean, it's always nice when you get the wins. It's been a bit of an odd season for you, though, because it took a long time for you to get a win in the Cup Series.
Yeah, it's been a rough one, really. I mean, we've had, obviously, I didn't start out the year driving for this team, so we had that change. You know, it all kind of came to a head right before the first round of the year, and we had to get everything sorted out for that. And yeah, it's just been, probably didn't help me either that I took a big long break from sim racing after the title last year, and by the time I came back, I was genuinely out of practice. You know, like I reckon it took probably until sort of mid-year before I started really feeling as I was picking it up again, and that's why I was running all three series for a while just to get some race miles under my belt. And, yeah, we've been on the bad side of the luck a number of times, cautions when we didn't need them, things like that, and I've made some mistakes as well. Been wrecked a couple of times. Realistically, I think there were probably 3 races in the regular season that we should have won and managed to find a way not to. And there are probably about another 3 that we could have won if things had gone well. So, yeah, that's the way it goes. Sometimes you can just put yourself in position every week and it just doesn't fall for you. But, you know, Vegas was always, I always felt that I was going to be hard to stop there. So, yeah, glad to tick that one off. Finally get a 1 in that win column and try to come good at the right time of the year.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to come good at the right time of the year, then in the chase is the time to do it, and we saw that last year, of course. So I just want to touch quickly on coming in this season as the defending champion, of course. Did that make much difference to you? Did it put more pressure on you, do you think, this year, or did you not really feel much difference?
I don't think there was any more pressure or anything like that. It's just a case of, I guess, not wanting to let your standards slip too much. But, I mean, the thing is as well that, you know, a race win will make you feel good for a couple of days, and a championship win will make you feel good for a couple of weeks. But, you know, after that, it doesn't really. It's a nice thing to have, but you've got to go do it all again and start from zero. You know, coming in as the reigning champ doesn't give you an advantage at the start of the year. You don't carry 30 points more than everybody else into the start of the year just because you won it last year. So, in terms of long term, it doesn't really mean a great deal. It's great to have that in history, I suppose, but in terms of the actual week to week racing, it doesn't change a thing. You've still got to go out there and prove yourself every single time out.
Yeah, very well answered there. So, really, I'm going to ask you sort of what got you into motorsport.
I can't really remember actually. It's something that's just always been there since for as long as I could remember. I guess, you know, my mum was a fairly big F1 fan, and we of course had the Grand Prix here in Adelaide, which was all around the time I was growing up. So I don't really remember a point where it wasn't a main focus and something I was really interested in. So yeah, there are some great stories I could tell. We probably haven't got time for just about the Grand Prix here in those days and some of the racing that we got to see back then. But yeah, it's been an ever present in my life, really.
I'm pretty sure we could do about a 6-hour long chat about motorsport together. We will try not to do that, of course. But I know you're a big fan of the American side of racing as well. And what got you into that aspect, sort of especially NASCAR?
Days of Thunder, really. That's the short answer. That kind of allowed me to sort of realise that racing existed, because we didn't really have any exposure to it over here. It wasn't on TV. You know, the internet wasn't even a thing. Sort of showing my age there, but if you kind of hear about it on like a sports roundup, you know, there might be 2 minutes on NASCAR or less. But no, I just love the way they do things over there. I mean, it's still a sport in America, whereas in Europe it's very much a business, and they manage to the racing's still good and everything, and it's got an identity of its own. But I just almost feel as though they've managed to suck a little bit of the fun out of it, with how serious and business-like it all is. Whereas in the States, they still treat it as a sport and something to be enjoyed, and everything else. So I really like that approach to it. And NASCAR in particular, everybody knows I love the beating and banging. I love the swap and paint and getting stuck into people on a short track and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just that side of it. The fact that they don't take themselves too seriously, and it's all a really good time. So that's what I like about the way they approach it.
Very much so. And I mean, just watching Roman Grosjean this year, his smile has actually reappeared since he's gone to America racing again, which is something that's nice to see. iRacing, what got you into the iRacing aspect as well?
Well, I mean, being interested in motorsport, I always kind of played racing games from long time, as early as I had a computer or a Sega Master System or whatever I was playing on back then. But it was actually my brother who first picked up iRacing, and he was just pestering me constantly to get into it. And finally I did, and I had a membership for about a year and never did an online race because I didn't really have the computer to run the thing properly. And then once I upgraded the PC, I started to get into it, and here we are.
Well, yeah, and it's gone pretty well since then. I mean, you've had some pretty good runs, and especially in the ANZCAR, but also in some other series as well, which is always good to see. But obviously, the oval side tends to be the main focus, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably where I found myself to be most competitive. I do like to do a bit of both. I'd really like to get good at dirt, actually, and I'm terrible. I can get around all right. I'm slow, and I don't know why. But I don't like to do just one thing. That being said, I've been doing a lot of NASCAR, obviously, but NASCAR is becoming more and more diverse in terms of the types of tracks that it runs on. There's a lot more road courses these days. We've got that dirt race in there now as well. So it sort of does enough it's got enough variety there to sort of keep me interested and keep me coming back every week.
No, and one last question before we head off. Obviously, we're pretty much halfway through the chase now. Just a few races remaining. Sort of, what do you think is going to be one of the strongest races for you towards the end of the chase season?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a few I was all right at the end of last year, but I'd have to say I reckon Texas I'll be all right, even though I don't really like how they've reprofiled it. I seem to have a fairly good figured out around there. And also, happily enough, Phoenix is a track that's sort of come good for me in the last, 6 months or something like that. I never used to be that good there, and then just something's clicked, and I run all right there too. So I'm looking forward to those two. Whether or not I'll get the win or not, I've got absolutely no idea. I mean, I've only won one race out of the last 30 or so, so it's not something I'm counting on. But yeah, we should be pretty strong at both of those, I think.
Well, we wish you luck for those races. Thank you so much, Edward Foster, for joining us tonight, and good luck for the race.
Thank you very much. We'll see how it goes.
So, Carl, there you go. An insight into the international man of mystery, which we lovingly call the Godfather, Edward Foster, the father of ANZCAR. And, just all started because of the Adelaide Grand Prix. So there you go.
Yeah, that's it. And long history of motorsport between Ed and myself. We've, as I said, probably talk about... I said 6 hours jokingly, but it could probably go on for about 6 days if me and Ed actually got on a roll with it. It has been worse before. But no, really interesting to talk to Ed in that respect, and nice to just have a chat about the racing aspect as well. Because often it is the case with Ed, it will be more about league stuff. It generally ends up being talked about, the whole ANZCAR side of things for him. And just to actually be able to talk about the racing aspect for it is a bit different, and nice to actually hear from him for that, because he has been a big fan, and he is a huge fan of the stock car racing and American racing in general. The fun little story of the night, I guess. The main reason me and Ed actually met is he was working in a pizza shop, and I just moved to Adelaide from England. And on my resume was I used to work for Penske back when they were based in Poole over in England. And he saw that on my resume and immediately just said, I must speak to this man. And since then, we've been firm friends.
Motorsport transcends all boundaries, and over none better than pizza.
That's it, you know, from Penske to pizza shops, my life went downhill quickly.
No, not really. Both can be fun on their night.
Absolutely. But no, really interesting and good to have a chat to him. And look, hopefully we'll see another strong performance as we saw from Las Vegas last time out. He's hoping to have a re-emergence of what we saw last season. Just had Matty Hunter jump up into the room and just have a quick chat with us as well. And he was just talking about how strange it is with the aero package this season. And you were talking about the old gurney flap at the back and that big rear spoiler on there. And it is affecting a little bit. There is quite a bit of drag on these cars. And they're struggling in trying to catch the draft. And if you just sort of fall out of it like Cade Donnelly just there, you almost struggle to get back onto it.
Well, I mean, and that plays into how important qualifying is as well. So what we might do here, Carl, we've got a minute 25 to go. Have you got our current championship standings available?
Oh, I have to pretend to type and click lots of buttons to keep up consistency. So in the lead is Jason Martin, 15 points ahead of Edward Foster in second. Third is Michael Gerlock, 18 points down. Fourth is Hamish Gallagher, 22 off the lead. Fifth is Josh Micklemore, 33 down. Sixth is JCW with Andrew Dyson, both 46 off the lead. Eighth is Neil Pearson, 47 down. Luke Trahere is in ninth, 54 down. 10th, we have Danny G, 56 off the lead. 59 off the lead is Matty Raymond in the final position of the chase in P11.
Okay, so it's pretty tight at the top. Of course, Edward Foster running. Jason Martin here tonight as well. So they will be having one eye on things. Of course, we've still got a little way to go here. They'll be having one eye on things, particularly as the defending champion. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be hoping that man there behind him, Edward Foster, which is, of course, I refer to Joshua Carroll Walden in the 35, can work with him tonight. Team play, very, very important tonight. And they've got a sim boy either end of them, and then they've got the Natari sandwich complete. So we want to make sure that they can run together, and as we said in the pre-game, to be in it right at the end when they get into those critical last few laps to make a challenge for the win.
Absolutely. Look, you've got to be in there at the end to get a chance, and that's the crucial thing. And look, it could be an interesting one tonight. We've got 90 laps here around Talladega, and we know that probably going to be about 35 laps for fuel. That's the sort of general rule of the thumb for Talladega, and so we'll be looking at least probably 2 stops tonight. So cautions could play into that as well. So we'll soon find out, and it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out at the end.
Absolutely. Gail Foster's just jumped into the chat and just let us know that the Foster family very firmly entrenched in motorsport. Warwick Farm, absolutely, would have loved to have got back there in the day, and Rowley Park as well as Malala. So plenty on. Okay, I'm lost. 12 months ago I was top 5, and now I've copped a D&Q 2 in a row. That's unlucky, Lockie. We prefer to see you out there, mate.
Yeah, really unfortunate to see, especially a driver of Lachlan's talent as well. You know, it just shows just how close it absolutely was in qualifying. Speaking of qualifying, let's run through the grid as it starts. So up on the front row is Scotty Griffiths and Jason Martin. Row 2, we have Damon Stockton, Hamish Gallagher. On the third row is Greg Spencer and Josh Micklemore. 4 is Vickers and Jaeger. 5 is Hartgen and Raymond. 6 is Clark and Pearson. 7, we have Donnelly and Danny G. 7 is Jaden Russell and Paul Jackson. On the 8th row is Stevie Dubb and Edward Foster. 9th row is Aidan Schultz, Gary Wellman. 10th row is Skurlock and Dyson. 11th row is Hedeshode and Riley Curtis. 12th row is Trahere and Dortnack. 13th row, Otto and Wally. And at the back, we've got JCW with Matty Hunter.
Rounding out our grid for tonight. So we're just going to get rid of that off the screen for the minute. We'll follow these guys around as we do. I'll get a good look at this field. They roll around behind the safety car, pace car even. I haven't done that for a while. Behind the pace car to get this one out of the way. I know it's basically like swearing.
$10 in the swear jar for you.
We all have our faults, and we'll jump out here on the blimp and just see if we can get a good picture of this entire field. Scotty Griffiths with a ripping performance. He's up the front tonight, and looks like we've got a car missing. Potentially, just not closed up the grid properly. That'll happen right now.
Closed up the grid properly, yeah. So Greg Spencer's got to tighten that up a little bit because he's sitting back a little bit too far there. So just got to close that up a little bit because that will be a penalty if you don't close that one up. Because you need to be nice and close at the start, of course. So you can see. The generic iRacing pace car will be coming in shortly. So,
just going to say, you can just see the effect it has there with that slow up because we're well out now. So I'll need to fix that up.
Yeah, pace car peels into the pits. It's going to be Scotty Griffiths leading the way over Jason Martin. Jason Martin's got 3 teammates behind him. That's going to be good for Mitch Motorsport. How is Scotty Griffiths going to handle this one? It's a long way to that start-finish line. Remember, no passing until you cross that start-finish line. So they've just got to all hold position until they get across that checkered line here at Talladega, deep in Alabama. We are go for the ANZCAR Cup. The chase is underway once more. Scotty Griffiths gets a good start there, but makes a big gap. The Mitch Motorsport boys have closed up nicely. They're going to get a good run on that high line, working together as a team, and that could be a big advantage for them. Clean start by the looks of it from all. Will that go through for the whole lap? We're soon going to find out.
Yeah, they want a clean start here. They want to stay together. There's already a break in the field, and that is not a good thing from what we heard earlier. Look at the Mitch boys in the train here. We've just got on top of Hamish Gallagher, and they are going to move down. Is there enough room for Micklemore to pull down as well? Potentially not. That's going to slow Martin up a lot. As you can see, Gallagher there going around the outside with the extra assistance. So they're trying to form. Not quite able to get there. Damon Stockton now on the back of Scotty Griffiths. And that high line now a little bit more effective.
Yeah, look, they're just trying to actually swap positions around at the moment to get... looks like they're trying to get Josh Micklemore out in the lead, possibly. They're just trying to swap their cars around just to get in a little bit of a running order, of course, because you don't want to necessarily be leading this race because that's going to be using up your fuel mileage. So sometimes it's better to be sitting at second or third. Now we know all those cars are in the championship, and you look at Micklemore, he just drops straight down. Now look at Matty Ray, who has worked his way up the field. 6 places gained so far as well. He's on an absolute flyer, but he's found himself out on his own at the moment. We've seen Matty Ray have some good runs here at Talladega. We saw it in the Xfinity car, but this is a very different beast. Not a lot more downforce, and that means a lot more drag on this car. So he is going to be struggling out there just with the single car in front of him of, I believe that might be Justin...
it's Justin Witcher.
Raymond Yeager, sorry.
Oh, Raymond Yeager, my apologies.
Yeager.
Apologies, yep. You can see how badly it's affecting them just being in the 2 now. They're just dropping positions. So now back into 7th and 8th. Looks like that's Ben Vickers who's taking advantage as well, and they've got to get back into this main train or they're going to find themselves dropping a whole heap of positions.
They are. Look, you can see just behind Greg Spencer just making room for Yeager, just letting him slide in there. Just a very nice little move from teammates, but that has left Matty Raymond out high and dry, and he is going to drop those 6 positions earned. It's going to mean nothing as he drops to the back of this pack. He's not going to be able to do anything. Look at the speed advantage. He's doing 300 kilometers per hour. The rest of those guys are nearly at 320. That's the difference in speed it makes being out on their own. All of that drag is hitting that SRM car, and that is going to really hurt him.
Yeah, you can see now. He might be able to slot in now if he can get down there. Daiso's left the window open. Oh, and he just can't quite get down in there. So he is going to drop all the way to the back of the field, and he's going to have to start again.
Yeah, honestly, if he dropped in there just with that little gap that
formed,
it would have just got loose, and then it probably would have caused a crash as well, just as Daiso just caught right to the back of Raymond. You can see he's dropped back onto the tail of Luke Traher, and he's just not gaining any speed from it either. He's just a bit too far away, and this is the problem at the moment. These cars' aero is really, it's very different running this. We saw in the Xfinity cars just how they were running too wide most of the race long and not having much trouble with the passing. Tonight, very, very different stuff. These Cup cars are a little bit more aero sensitive, a little bit more aero heavy. Of course, they are running the restrictor plates as well, so they haven't got all of their horsepower. So, you know, not the normal 800-900 horsepower that they're used to running, but they're still blindly quick. Josh Mickelmore up at the front is running at about 324, 325 kilometers per hour at the moment, so, you know, it is still very fast stuff. But you can't really get that second line working unless you get a big group of cars. There's somebody trying it in the background. I think it might be Daniel Hennessy trying for it, and he's got stuck out there. He's got caught out with that one, and he's going to have to drop back a little bit and hope that his teammate JCW can make a little bit of a gap for him. He's got Riley Curtis there as well, so he got caught out really big there, and he's sort of stuck out in no man's land at the moment. He's just got to try and slide it in, just get behind the pink machine of Riley Curtis and just in front of JCW to get this one working, but he's just not got the gap there at the moment. Just can't quite make it in there, so he's going to drop back a little bit. Looks like there's a tiny bit of damage to the back of Riley's car as well, so Curtis has taken a little bit of a whack to the back of that car. So a little bit of damage there, so a couple of little taps here and there already. So those are things that will happen when you're doing a little bit of bump drafting and when you're getting a little bit close to each other. But there is already a couple of packs just absolutely broken away and a couple of people falling off as well.
I was going to say, I noticed there Luke Traher just dropping off the back of the pack, so that's going to suffer. So really those guys hoping for a caution at some stage to help close things back up, but we're on board now with Scotty Griffiths, our pole sitters. Just dropped back into fourth at the moment behind the Mitch Motorsport trio of Mickelmore, Gallagher and Martin. And it would be remiss of us to write off Danny G at this point in time. We've got one eye on him for the remainder of the race after just sneaking onto the podium last week.
Yeah, that's it. That finish for Danny G was absolutely fantastic. Just coming from nowhere to get back up into P3. So definitely keep an eye out for him. And another person we've seen do a similar job to that is the orange DPR car of Andrew Dyson. So again, keep a bit of an eye out for him. DPR just trying to get all of their cars together, and that's going to be a hard thing to shuffle. Because you can't get that second line really working, so you can't sort of shuffle around with your teammates, unfortunately, and that's making a big problem at the moment for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, well, Neil Pearson, he's got Stevie Dubb one behind him, so he's got Danny G in the middle, Stevie Dubb behind him, and then it's 4 or 5 back to Andrew Dyson, so they're going to have to do a little bit of shuffling to as you say, to get that sorted out, but it's a huge risk. It requires a lot of communication between them because you've effectively got to run it like a cycling race in the velodrome. You've got to, you know, make sure that the person who's swapping from the front to the rear of the group knows when they can go and when they can slot in, and that's not easy to do because of course you've got everyone else in between you trying to stop that from happening. So see how this goes. We're 9 laps through the 90 laps here tonight, all green, which is good to see on FGM eCast with ANZCAR. This is the Cup, it's the chase. We're at Talladega. Joining us tonight, thank you for doing so, and do hit that like and subscribe button on whatever platform it is that is your platform of choice. We would certainly appreciate you considering subscribing to our channel.
Yeah, just looking back a little bit on lap 2, Phil Otto, there was a bit of a check-up with Daniel Hedeshide. Getting a little bit checked up, and he's got some damage on that front and back of the car. As Philip Worley got into the back of him, he got into the back of Luke Traher, who got into the back of Riley Curtis. So that's where that damage came from, and he's really just fallen out of the pack, as well as Kay Donnelly. Both those cars are just running on their own at the moment and quite a bit off. Kay Donnelly will be getting caught up by the lead pack in relatively short time, I would say. And luckily it's a big old track at Talladega, 4.2 kilometers old, but running out there at the speed he is, he will soon have that lead pack getting up to him and possibly falling down a lap.
Small gap opening up between Greg Spence and Raymond Jaeger. That could cause some... Oh, sorry, Carl, I was just going to say that could cause some issues for those behind as that gap continues to widen.
One of the things that you have to remember as well, running in a pack like this, is your car gets very hot. And I'm just wondering if possibly Greg Spence just having a little bit of heat issue and just needing to drop off a little bit from the back of his teammate there, just because he might have just been getting a little bit warm in the Intuisim Esports Network cars and just have to drop off a little bit. He's got returning veteran Jason Hartigan there in the Atari Autosport car, the 51, back in action with Norman Clark just behind him. So some teammates sort of linking it up with each other there, but they've got to try and find the rest of their team. And the team that's really managed that well is Josh Mickelmore Gallagher and Martin of the Mitch Motorsport team. All three of their cars out in front at the moment. That is looking good for them.
As Higley jumps into the chat, says Talladega, aka the Mecca of Mitch Motorsport. Carl, a very timely comment given what you just said. But yeah, at the moment, the Mitch boys have got themselves sorted out. It's very early on, but they're in control at the moment.
And I wouldn't be too surprised to see possibly them trying to sort of cycle Josh Mickelmore back a little bit in around about 4 to 5 laps time, just to try and help him with fuel mileage. So you might see a little bit of shuffling going on with those cars at some stage soon, just so they can keep running a little bit longer, because one of the things you don't want to do is all have to pit at the same time, come in, and while the rest of the pack gets one more lap out there with that lovely draft, you can sometimes fall off a little bit and lose a fair few positions. As we've got a caution.
We do have our first caution.
Gary Wellman involved with that one. So Gary Wellman and Daniel Hedishai as well caught up with that one.
Just a little tag there on the back of Gary Wellman. So no further damage done, but Gary Wellman there just copying a tag on the rear of the 45 and going around there.
Very lucky to keep that car from the wall. So that was some good news for them. It's that's useful, that because it's not good to have a little bit of damage, but luckily there's very little damage on Wellman's car, so he's still very much in it. And that caution absolutely saving them as well, because they're going to be able to form right back up, get back into the action. And of course, this gives them the chance to come down pit lane as well. We've done 14 laps so far, so not a huge amount, but we could see these cars just coming into pit lane just to get a top up of fuel.
It's Mick Taylor. G'day, Mick. SRM boy not able to get in today. 51.3 and still down in 32nd qualifying. Yeah, qualifying was tough. There were 10 or 15 drivers all on the same lap time, mate, so it did make it quite difficult to get in here tonight. I guess it's the good and the bad bit about Australia's premier oval track racing series.
Yeah, of course. A little bit lesser field of locked field, we should say, of 30, just to help reduce the amount of cautions, really, just to help keep it a tighter field and keep everything hopefully a little bit cleaner, which it tends to be. It looks like the whole field are coming in, so nobody's going to risk it out there and stick it out there for some track position by the looks of it.
I was waiting for a really, really late swing, coordinated swing from the Mitch Motorsport boys there, just to try and fool everyone, but not to be.
No, I think fuel is too important. With 14 laps run here, you're sort of getting towards sort of half a tank used at the moment, and it's a big risk to play.
That is some interesting parking there, and that's cost him a lot of time. Scott Griffiths, he had to recheck himself into pit lane, and that has cost him.
Big time. Fast in qualifying, pit stops not so much for Scotty Griffiths, it seems. Just a little mistake there, just an unfortunate one for him.
Hemorrhaged positions.
Yeah, that's going to really drop him down the field, and just that little bit late brake on that one. He just braked a little bit too late, had to just readjust it, and that is going to cost him a huge amount of time. Everybody just taking fuel by the looks of it as well, so nobody choosing for tyres, obviously. There is fixed set of tyres of for 4 sets of tyres for the race, but being a super speedway, you don't really get
Probably not the problem.
much wear. Yeah.
Yeah, not the real problem here.
No.
Thanks for the compliment, Mick. Appreciate it. Love seeing you SRM boys out there. So, no doubt rooting for Matty Ray tonight. See if he can bring home the biscuits. Well, it's been a, I've got to say, pretty plain start, Carl. I was expecting fireworks, expecting a little bit of biff and stuff, but I think the set's probably got a lot of the drivers, I don't know if confused is the right term. It's just playing out probably a little bit differently to how a lot of them saw it happening tonight.
Yeah, I think this whole the slight change and slight tweaks to the Cup cars has really caught out a lot of drivers and really surprised people. I think even those that have been doing quite a lot of practice have been caught out by these changes. So it's caught a lot of people off, and it's just very tricky to sort of do. Well, it's tricky to run a second line without anyone there with you, but it's also tricky to sort of overtake, of course, because as soon as you step out of the line, that's it. You are absolutely dead in the water. So that really can hurt you. I think I just saw Mirko Dortnack sneaking into the pit lane.
Yeah,
so
he didn't stop.
Okay.
He didn't do his stop. I was waiting for you to finish. I was going to say Mirko's done the alternate. He's not jumped into pit lane, but before I could say that, he has done just that. So
no, he did come into pit lane. He just missed his stall. Okay. Yes, so
because it's got him down as 0 stops.
Yeah, in the carnage of it all, he just missed his pit stop. So that's an extra drive through for him. So he's just decided he just wanted to come through pit lane and have another tour and maybe get some fuel this time, because that's probably going to be beneficial for the rest of the race. So what looked to be a very good pit stop for him turned out to be a very bad one. So the cars are doubling up again, and it's going to be Josh Micklemore and Hamish Gallagher leading away. Jason Martin in 3rd, with Damon Stockton in 4th. Raymond Yeager in 5th, 6th is Ben Vickers, 7th we have Greg Spence, Neil Pearson in 8th, 9th is Jason Hartigan, and 10th is Jaden Russell. So watch out for the fireworks on this start. Let's see what people can do. Let's see if somebody can get that second line running tonight, and see what people can work out there, and see what Mitch Motorsport can magic up on this restart on lap 16.
Well, we did see them fall wide here in the Xfinity cars, so see if any of that magic recreates itself. It's going to take some people to work together, a bit of bravery as well. So, but we're only 16 through. Lights are out. So
still a long way to go in this race.
Absolutely.
Of course, that's the thing. It's you can't win the race this early, but you sure as heck can lose it.
Certainly. So just waiting for this long lap. Feels like a really long lap behind the pace car.
It is.
That's because it is, absolutely. So the pace car will pull away in a sec. There he goes.
One of the drawbacks of Talladega, I guess, is it is just such a long track that, and the start-finish line is so far away that it seems like an eternity when you're behind that pace car. But we are getting underway, and a bit of a check-up behind. Luckily, I think most people actually managed to avoid it, but I saw a few cars having to swerve out the way, but looks like everybody's okay. But we are going to be going back green here at Talladega for the ANZCAR Cup Series. As Micklemore leading away, gets a good start ahead of his teammates, Jason Martin and Hamish Gallagher. Watch out for Stockton, see if he can do anything. Look at them just sliding together there, getting that move orchestrated to get that low line worked out very quickly for the Mitch Motorsport boys. Hamish Gallagher sliding into the middle. Josh Micklemore leading away here. That high line has already started to fall back. Damon Stockton hemorrhaging positions at the moment. Ben Vickers trying to do something, can't quite make it work. Neil Pearson working his way up. See, he's trying to get up there, trying to move a few positions up, but can't quite make a spot for him. Tries to push his way down, getting very close to Jaden Russell. No position there to get in. He might be able to slot it between Russell and... he touches the back of Jaden Russell there. Gets a little bit of return contact. They keep going, though. They managed to keep those cars straight. So that is some serious work, but a bit of bump drafting going on. bit of bump drafting going on here at the moment, but
plenty of it.
There's plenty of action where it's getting really dicey towards the back. I wouldn't be too surprised to see another caution coming up, because there is just a huge check-up towards the back, and that from about 7th down, they've just dropped way off the back of the lead pack. That lead pack has got it away like a scalded cat. But Jaden Russell sort of holding up everybody almost with that little bit of contact with Neil Pearson has meant that Ben Vickers, Damon Stockton, Raymond Yeager, Jason Martin, Hamish Gallagher and Josh Micklemore have managed to get a nice break away from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, I think Martin was... I think Pearson there was hoping to hop onto the back of Stockton on that higher line, but Stockton couldn't wait any longer. He had to get down into the low line because he was going to end up losing too many positions. So he did that, and it ended up forcing Pearson to try and make a parking space in that low line, and that affected Russell as well. So probably not how they wanted that one to play out, as there is a second line forming in the background there. It looks like Matty Ray is at the head of that line, and in it is the couple of Phoenix Smokers DPR entries, Steve Williams, Andrew Dyson in that chain. So they're Philip Worley as well, yeah. So they're gonna hope that works.
Watch Stevie Williams just jump up in front of Matty Ray here. He is gonna. I would imagine he's gonna jump up in front of Matty Ray to try and get that working. Although no, he doesn't. Decides not to. Skurlock's just behind Matty Raymond at the moment, so the other DPR cars are just dropping off a little bit. It looks like that high line's not working. There's a bit of a check-up. There is a huge check-up as around goes Jaden Russell. So Russell has gone around, and looks like that might have been a little bit of contact in the back from Neil Pearson, just giving him a little bit of bump draft, and Russell just gets loose on the exit of the tri-oval, and around he goes, and then gets tagged. Almost catastrophe there. Somehow a lot of cars managed to get through it, but they've all lost a lot of time.
This thing has just had a little heart attack here.
Yeah, to say if the replay's not working, jump back to Neil Pearson, because we're running 4 wide at the moment here down the back straight, as cars are everywhere as it stands. It is absolute madness in that second pack at the moment. They are running all over the place. You can see right here, they were running 4 wide a minute ago. They are still 3 wide with Wally up the top there. In the middle is Aidan Schultz. At the bottom is Scotty Griffiths there, with Edward Fossey just behind, and Luke Trahere in there as well. They are all over the place from that big checkup, and it really has cost them a lot of time. Neil Pearson, quite a lot of damage to the front of that car. That's not going to help his night at all. Meanwhile, it's helped Danny G get out in front. He's managed to check out a little bit with Greg Spencer, Jason Hardigan, and Daniel Hedesheik. So those guys have just got a little bit of a breakaway. Meanwhile, Matty Ray, working that high side, has managed to get up a few positions, but he's just got left high and dry by Andrew Dyson. He needs to find a way down to that bottom line, or he's going to drop right to the back again. But up the front, it is the Micklemore experience of the Mitch Motorsport cars pulling away at the moment. They have got a great lead over the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and it looks like Ben Vickers has actually managed to just grab hold of the back of this pack as well. So it is Yeager, Stockton and Vickers on the back there. And then there is a huge gap, 5.5 seconds back to Danny G and this chain. But not the worst thing, they're in a group now, so they're going to be able to maintain that gap, hopefully, to the leaders. And that's okay. We've got pit stops to come. There's plenty of time left. So what's important is that it doesn't get any bigger, and that if there is a caution, they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's it. There are a lot of cars just really out of position at the moment and just sort of stuck on their own. One car that I'm looking at is Michael Skurlock. He's really struggling out there tonight in the 350. He's down there in 23rd position at the moment, and he can't really do anything. He's just stuck right at the back and just unable to really push his way forward. So he's having a bit of a rough night, and a lot of cars caught up in that second pack have just got an eternity from themselves to that front pack. If it remains green here tonight, you've got to say it's looking good for everybody from Josh Micklemore to Ben Vickers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long time green note. So obviously we will have to see what comes of it. What you can say at the moment is this lead pack has done a really good job on the restart. All of them pitting, so all of them with a full tank at the restart as well. So they've got plenty of laps left in them. Imagine that shifts the pit window now to around about lap 44. And if they can stretch it, they'll make it home. Potentially. No,
Yeah,
they won't. It's going to be a big stretch.
Yeah, it would be an almighty stretch, that one. You know, it would be finding fuel on the track, scooping it up, and and possibly making your own with some moonshine stretch.
Let's see. Ben Vickers has just dropped off the back a little bit here. He won't want to drop off too far.
So about lap 54 will be the sort of point where I think most of them will probably need to come in. Then that will pretty much get them towards the end by my calculations. That's sort of running off your sort of regular Talladega fuel loads. And yeah, they're just really just have to say that second pack is just struggling at the moment, just not really working together as well. And that's the big problem at the moment, because they're trying to form a second line as well. So you've got cars that are trying to form second lines at the moment, just not pushing as much as the front pack. As around goes Dyson. Dyson manages to save it. Does he? Yes, he does. Dyson saves it somehow. The drifting experience.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Andrew Dyson.
Oh, and he hits his teammate.
And the caution is out. Philip Worley getting an absolute whack with that one, as well as Matt Hunter, I think. So Dyson almost managed to save that one, and unfortunately doesn't. He goes up into Worley, who hits Matty Hunter. That was a disastrous incident.
I'm just going to go back here and find the start of that one. It's right the way back up, so let's go back and have a look at this.
But yeah, they're trying to form that second lineup, and it just looks like Daiso has just tried to come back down a bit too aggressively on Scotty Griffiths, and he's just caught the front of Scotty Griffiths and spun himself round. He tries to save it. He almost does save it, and then all of a sudden it snaps on him, and up the track he goes into Philip Worley. So he tried his best to save that one, could not do it. And when you're braking, you know, you sort of say, well, what about just slamming on the brakes in that situation? Well, you're still doing well over 230 kilometers per hour there, so he's just trying his best to feather it around so it doesn't spin up. If he slammed on the brakes, it would have been a very similar result, I think. So that is a bit of a disaster for Daiso.
Yeah, not too bad for the rest of the field, though. It'll close it back up, so hopefully they don't end up with that same huge gap. I was just having a look at the damage on Daiso there. He's had to drive through pit lane again. And he's, what's he doing there? Just getting out of it. I think he's,
yeah, I think he's having to retire that car. I think it's actually an iRacing thing. I think it's saying that he needs to catch up to somebody, and there's a little bit of an iRacing being iRacing issue, I think. So, because there's a few drivers that are absolutely going at a snail pace because they're trying to get the right car get through. But the rest of the field has caught up, so they are all coming into pit lane, of course, on lap 27. So we've got 63 remaining tonight. So we're going to see all of these cars filing into pit lane.
I mean, Daiso, unless his car was mortally wounded, not the night to chuck it in. Because, of course, under the caution, he'll catch back up onto the back of the pack. So, if he can run in that very short fuel there.
Crucially, he didn't lose a lap, so that's the main thing. He'll be able to get back out there and get back in front of everybody. So that's going to help him out an enormous amount. And same for Jaden Russell. It's going to give him the opportunity to get back on the lead lap. So Jaden Russell will be sort of back on that lead pack as well. So we've only lost one car tonight, and that's Philip Worley. Unfortunately, that damage was way too severe to keep going. Yeah,
unfortunately, they're just an innocent bystander. No doubt a beer will be bought for him.
Yeah, it's one of those situations that you just, it's an unfortunate thing when a car does that. And the ones this really hurts are those guys that have that nice big lead at the front, of course. they had that perfect gap in front of them, and it was looking good for everybody from Micklemore to Vickers. But now all the rest of the field has caught up, so it's back to racing. So what's bad news for them is good news for us, because we get some racing back here on the channel.
So Jaden Russell just sitting there at the front behind the pace car. I'm assuming he'll be either let by or have to shuffle down.
He should get the wave around, I think. So we'll find out that one. So I think he'll get the wave around, and that's not the, of course, because he wasn't a lap down. It's for that awkward moment, because he wasn't a lap down. He won't get the sort of lucky dog, but I think he should get the wave around here. So he should be allowed to get past that pace car as the lights go out, and then he'll try his best to catch up to the back of the pack. So that's one of the tricky things. Or he's going to come into pit lane again. So he's coming into pit lane actually. So he's going to come in and get some more repairs by the looks of it. So maybe that damage is a bit more extensive than we thought. So he's coming in for a few more repairs.
Not a bad time to get it done. He'll get a good minute or so in. He just needs to make sure that he's up on the back of the pack, because he won't want to be left alone out in no man's land, that's for sure.
So that's the thing, it can be quite painful when you're out there on your lonesome, and you sort of feel very left out. So just going back to have a little bit of a look. So I just noticed Mirko Dornak just coming back into pit lane. I think he's just coming in just to chuck a couple more litres of fuel on board. So Mirko just topping up the tank a little bit. So just putting a sneaky little bit of extra fuel in there just to go a little bit longer. So that could work out well for Dornak if this race remains green for a nice long time, because he won't have to do as much fuel saving as the rest of the cars around him. So to sort of wait to that next pit stop, so it'll help him out a little bit. But we are going 2 by 2 again. It's going to be Josh Micklemore leading away from Jason Martin, Hamish Gallagher, Raymond Yeager, Damon Stockton, Ben Vickers, Jason Hartigan, Danny G, Paul Jackson, and Edward Foster at P10.
Yep. A long way to go still here. 61 laps. 60 when we restart. So looking at around about 40 minutes run time left.
They will go by fast and furiously if we get some good green flag running here tonight.
Absolutely. Let's see how we go. Waiting on the restart.
Ooh, big check up at the back again.
Again. Some questions raised about that, I think.
What happened there? Just going back to a bit of a look at that one.
I'll take us away. So it will be Josh Micklemore who is going to drop it, and he goes, as you'd expect, as early as he can. Great pictures there as the Mitch boys again form that line that they need to form at the front of the field. Raymond Yeager not able to do too much about it other than to conform. Slide in behind them there with Damon Stockton right behind him. Danny G, we said that Danny G, the silent assassin, he is up into 6th position now already, and looking to jump in with his teammates at the front. Carl, he is having a ripper, just gradually making his way through the field, taking advantage where he can, and he's going to join his teammates in the not too distant future if they get another caution or so. May not even require that for them to get up there. They won't be able to work something out to move him up a couple of positions, but at the moment he's sitting pat in 6th position and working things well without his teammates.
Yeah, it's got him closer, importantly, but it's one of those things that it's really hard to pass at the moment, and you know, they just can't seem to get to get that second line working, or just get sort of the passing opportunities working either. So it's really sort of struggling, and as soon as you get sort of almost like an open air, your car just starts dropping back and just really falling off the pace, and that's it. You're sort of gone, and you just can't really catch up. So it's a bit of a weird one at the moment, and tantalisingly close as Danny G is to Hamish Gallagher right now, it's not much he can do to sort of get onto the back of him unless we get a caution or some strenuous circumstance.
Neither of which are massive possibilities. Obviously the caution, the more realistic one.
He's the same colour as a Fox, Mr. Danny G, of course, in the orange. So, yeah, very much the Fox of the Mitch Motorsport team, Mr. Danny G. Trev Micklemore just mentioning on the old Facebook. So, yeah, Danny G really wily and having a good, solid finish to his season as well. He's been having some good results recently and some really good runs. So, it'd be nice to see him trying to work his way up there, but he's currently got to make his way past Raymond Yeager and Damon Stockton, so there are a few cars in front of him. And as I say, the stalling effect as soon as you get out of the draft here is so strong that you can't really afford to try that second line at the moment. You might see a few people try it a little bit later on in the race, but right now it's just a bit too much, just a bit too much of a risk to take.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're going to lose more than you're potentially going to gain. As Stockton's all over the back of Raymond Yeager there. So got very close.
So we've currently got the top 16 up in the front pack from Josh Micklemore down to Matty Ray. And then it goes back to Luke Trahair, Norman Clark, Michael Skurlock, and Cade Donnelly is just a little bit off that pack trying to catch up. Then we fall back to Gary Wellman, Neil Pearson, Andrew Dyson, Phil Otto, Riley Curtis and Matt Hunter. Those guys, those guys trying to form up and sort of get something working to try and catch up, but at the moment they're sort of squabbling a bit, which is just costing them time and just losing in positions as it stands. So they need to sort of slide into a decent spot to get this one working.
I'm just waiting for someone to try something here. Probably too few laps in for that to happen. See someone open that second line, grab a hold of this race. But it's too risky.
Just in the background of this main pack, you can see Luke Trahair, Norman Clark and Michael Skurlock trying to get that little train hooked up together. And not just quite working at the moment, and just trying to get in the bubble, of course. And what we speak by that with the draft, with the sort of the bump drafting and the pack action in this respect, is you sort of get underneath the rear spoiler of the car in front of you, and that takes away some of their rear downforce, so it effectively makes them go faster. Of course, reduces the drag, and it reduces the drag on the car behind, who effectively is pushing you, and gives you a little bit more horsepower. And then the longer that train is, the easier it is, the sort of less drag you have and the faster you go effectively. And they've started to get that working at the moment, so they're going to start catching up to Matty Ray relatively shortly, I'd say. They've sort of got in a good position at the moment, but the one thing you have to be careful of in a little pack like this is just overheating the engine a little bit. And Luke's got a little bit of damage on the front of that car as well, which is not ideal to be the leader of the pack, so he could just be costing him a couple of tenths, millionths of a second here and there, just with that little bit of damage on the right front.
Gotta keep working together though, they won't get anywhere if they don't. So, all experienced campaigners, so they'll know what they need to do to try and address the gap and get back up on to this lead group. Plenty of work to do yet. Of course, there's a you can see there the gap now. It is actually gradually closing to 2.8 last time around. Between the back Matty Ray here and the front of Luke Trahair.
Yeah, they're sort of in an awkward position really, because it's you know, three cars is not going to be as effective as the massive train of cars in front of them, but they're doing their best to make it work at the moment. So just trying their best to get it working, and that's all you can do in a situation like that, is just try, and try. And you just got to hope maybe there's a bit of a mistake up the front, as a few of the cars up the front are starting to have to pull out of the draft a little bit, get some fresh air on those radiators, because it looks like they're starting to have a little bit of heating issue. Danny G just having to pull out quite a bit, actually, and that's put him out of position, as well as Ben Vickers. Ben Vickers is going to lose a lot of positions right here, as Vickers gets held up on the high line and is going to hit that stall. That air is just going to smack that car, and it's a bit like sticking your hand outside of your windscreen of your car when you're driving along at 100 kilometers per hour. You feel that buffeting effect, and that drag effect happens to Vickers, and all of a sudden he goes from running at 320 kilometers per hour down to about 305. It's like hitting a sort of a brick wall almost.
And down from P6 to P16, so a 10 spot swing.
The only good thing about that, of course, is it does help the fuel numbers a tiny bit, but the bad thing is there's a lot of exhaust gases coming out from the cars in front of you, which means there's a lot more heat coming to you at the end of that pack. So the further you go down the line, you have the benefit of using less fuel, but you also have the disadvantage of having a hotter engine. And you have to be careful in these cars, because it only takes a momentary lapse of concentration, and then all of a sudden your engine temperature will rise, and then you'll hear a big pop, and that is that for your race.
And it can happen. Oh, it can happen at any time as well.
That's it. The Stuart's voice is finally breaking.
Oh, so amazing! Yeah, no, I'm in there. I'm finally in there at 37.
Yep.
It's amazing to get there eventually. Now I know what you're all talking about.
We'll have to plan Stuart's permits for now. But no, good run at the front still. Mitch Motorsport just absolutely running this one to a T. Josh Micklemore leading the most laps so far this night. He is very much stuck to the front of this pack and enjoying it. He's enjoying that clean air. He's enjoying that lovely view out the front of his car. And just sitting there and just enjoying that. Meanwhile, Foster just jumping out of the pack now. He's going to fall back a little bit. So Foster moving out there. He's going to drop down towards the back of the pack unless he can find a space, which he might be able to do with his teammate just making a bit of a gap.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There we go. That's the beauty of having teammates in a pack, is they can help you out a little bit.
It's worked very well. Maybe just trying to get together deliberately. They've got Jason Hardigan one in front, Paul Jackson in between, so just trying to get themselves together. Joshua Carroll Warden, he's got a bit of damage, but he is a couple back as well, so what can they do?
Yeah, luckily the front of JCW's car is pretty much pristine. It's just the back end that's a little bit of a dog's dinner at the moment. So he's looking pretty good in there. So he'll try and link it up too. And that could be a good thing for Natari. They could be in with a bit of a shout here. And they'll be hoping to try and get the trifecta, of course. Then all three cars up there and see if they can be the next team to do a lockout here in the Cup Series.
Well, tonight, if Mitch do it again, it'll be a hat-trick of lockouts. So,
yeah. We'll soon have to call it the Mitch Motorsport Special, won't we? It's
ridiculous.
If they manage it again. But just shows the skill in that team. It is a fantastic group of drivers, and just, you know, when you're actually racing those guys and you're racing them and you're sort of with them on pace, you just go, okay, this is kind of cool, because you know how quick and how good they are. And it's a good measuring stick to have against yourselves, because you know that you it gives you a good idea of what your pace is. If you can keep up with the Mitch boys, you know you're doing an okay job. And they are always very good to race against as well, very clean in that respect. So they tend to be very rewarding drivers to race against, and pretty much we say that about the whole pack, of course, but oftentimes I've been racing against the Mitch boys. They've been very, very close to me, and very much very very favourable to me as well, just giving me a few tips and hints here and there, as well as Foster jumps out the pack again. I wonder if he's got a bit of heating issue, because he's just jumping right out of the pack once more. He's getting right up on that high side, and I think he's either just getting some overheating issues, or he's just trying to get an idea of how much time he's going to lose by jumping up there. So it's it definitely looks like temperatures are starting to rise in some of those cars, because they are really pulling themselves out of the draft to get a little bit of clean air on those radiators, just to try and cool down a little bit.
Yeah, it could be. He's what's done is it's created a bit of a gap between himself and his teammate Daniel Heddersheet. Sort of starting to close up a little bit again now, but may create that break, which would not have been the intention. We'll just see here again. He's just riding that shoulder. Oh, how's this going to go now? He's actually pulled out to have a crack. He's not going to get that done out there by himself. But he's going to get plenty of cool air into the front of 53. He's back down in front of his teammate again. So it's a little bit of management there from Edward Foster. Again, he pulls out. So
he's getting a good run right here, and it looks like
he's going to try and get maybe in front of Hardigan.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's just trying to get a little bit of orchestration here to just sort of get Hardigan just to back it up a little bit when he gets that run. So he's just trying to get a bit of an idea here to get that run, to get himself past Paul Jackson, up a spot onto the back of Hardigan, seeing if he can make it work. But every time he goes to do it, he just can't make it work. And he's got the benefit of having his teammate behind him as a buffer that can sort of back the rest of the pack up.
Let him have a go, yeah.
So he's just getting an idea of what the run is actually about. So it's almost experimentation right now. So it's sort of experimenting with seeing how he can actually get that run. Just seeing RS14 jump into the chat and sort of say frustrating not seeing anyone following him. But the big issue is if you haven't got more than about 5 cars on that second line, it's not really got the speed. With the current aero package of the Cup cars, they're really struggling tonight with getting a second line running. Nobody's been able to actually make it work tonight. It's pretty much been a single file affair.
He's just pulled back in again behind Paul Jackson. Up in the high line, there's Mirko Dortnek, so he's going to go a lap down.
And it's been a big break off. JCW has fallen right off the pace with Stephen Williams, Matty Raymond and Ben Vickers. Those 4 cars have just completely fallen back. So they really need to try and do something to try and catch back up to Aidan Schultz and the rest of that group. So they've had a big moment, just lost that little bit of momentum and really fell back quite a few positions. So that's lessened the strength of that front pack. And meanwhile, Luke Trahere, Norman Clark, Michael Scullop, Greg Spence working together at the moment. Greg Spencer there, the tail of that sort of that third pack, we should say, but they're not really, they are losing time. They're not gaining on that front pack. It's just nearly impossible to do anything. And then a little bit further back, you've got Andrew Dyson with Neil Pearson, Gary Wellman, Phil Otto, Kate Donnelly, Scotty Griffiths, and Matt Hunter. They're sort of just unable to get that other pack really getting time. They're just falling back a little bit each time round as well, not really gaining on the rest of the cars. So it's just really weird out there tonight. It just seems like the aero package on these Cup cars is just not working tonight, and it's just everybody is struggling to get anything other than a single file run at the moment.
Yeah,
so if we don't get any cautions, I feel like this one's going to be a very big one on strategy.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be when to roll the dice. So it's going to have to wait and see what happens here. Heddersheet's got to close back up onto the back of Foster again as well. Foster's going to be left as the last one in the chain. He goes out wide again. Just seeing if he can get it done. No, just not able to. So really, obviously there with header sheet able to just block Schultz a little bit, not even block him, but just control him. Gives Foster the ability to explore, but just not able to get it done. He really needs Hardigan just to break it up, but of course then there's the risk of falling off that lead pack. So
we've seen if you fall off that lead pack, it's just almost a death sentence because you just can't get back up there again. You
6
just fall
seconds.
right off.
6 seconds before the last caution, they broke away. Before the group got back together again, and just managed that gap until that caution came about, but they couldn't do anything about it either.
No, it's a lot of drivers have complained about the aero package tonight, and I must admit,
Can see why.
I'm not a fan of it. Yeah, it's definitely not helping things tonight. It's not helping the show tonight for sure. That big old rear spoiler is really making things tough. It's acting a bit like a parachute tonight, and really not helping anyone really form anything other than the single line. And it's even as we said, you know, we've seen a couple of times people try and form up 2 lines, and there's just been nothing of it. Even towards the back of the pack, nobody's been able to run a sort of twin line system. It's just been pretty much a single line. This time, look, Foster going up there, header sheet as Jackson
bit of contact.
just gets a little bit out there. And this is really going to hurt them because that's going to slow them all down a little bit.
This time, header sheet went with Foster. Gave him that little bit of a boost. That's 2v2 here.
Just looks like Foster's back end just stepped out on him a little bit just as he was trying to do that. So you can see they're trying to push on that high line now as they've basically fallen away from the rest of the pack. It is just 2v2. There is no other cars in that, and they have fallen off the back of the main pack now, and that could be disastrous for them. Foster is trying his best to work that high line with his teammate Heddersheet, and it's just not working for them. Meanwhile, Jackson and Schultz are going to slide in front, and I think Foster's best bet right here is to just fall in behind Schultz and just try and gain back up to that lead pack. But you can see as soon as Heddersheet gets towards the back of Foster's car, it just gets super tail happy. That thing just does not want to have anything on its rear at the moment. It just sort of lifts the, as I say, when the car gets on the rear of the car like that, it effectively reduces the downforce, and then you sort of get very slippery. And that was happening there with Foster. He was really struggling with that tail breaking out on him. So that has caused them to drop off, and they're just going to fall away from this lead pack now and going to struggle to catch it back up to it, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the subscriptions there from the guys that just jumped in. And Aaron Dillon as well jumping in saying, boring single file racing. iRacing need to fix this. Absolutely. We agree with you there tonight, Mr. Dillon. The guys are doing all they can, but there's not a lot they can do, and they can't effectively put together a passing move, even as teammates.
It's a Monaco-esque style race, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. I'll jump back up to the front for a bit. Just have a look here, see how it's going. The fear here for Danny G and Jason Hardigan is even they're starting to drop off ever so slightly on the back. You can see how close as well Jason Martin is to the back of Josh Mickelmore, so he's going to need to worry a little bit about cooling that 21 entry off, because otherwise he's going to find himself very quickly with an overheating car. Riding that close, there would have been no airflow whatsoever in the front of that car.
That thing would be getting very hot very, very quickly, and hot race cars don't like to work very well, as they're just passing Riley Curtis now. He's just falling back a lap, unfortunately. The pink not bringing him too much luck in the 93 tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, Gale. There needs to be a little bit more thought go into it. They're not all teammates, but it's only lap 55 of 90, and they're certainly not going to win it by themselves. So they should have worked together there. I could see what Ed was trying to do. It wasn't to be.
Byline, though, is a bit of a death sentence tonight. It's just seems to be that thing of just not wanting to work, and well, it's been a, you know, it's an unfortunate thing. It's, you know, it's why the Xfinity series tends to be the exciting one on the Dega, because we get a lot of drivers out there for that, because a little bit less aero, things like that. It does tend to give you that chance to have that too wide, that a little bit more frenetic super speedway action. But with the current Cup cars, hopefully we'll see with the next generation of cars, they will hopefully get it a little bit better for the super speedway packages, and make it so we can get some much more exciting racing where it's not so much single file.
Oh, Foster there has a huge blink on track. That's not good news either. Got we're into the pit window, Carl, as well.
We are indeed. So
33 to go.
Dyson, Pearson, and Otto are in the pit lane.
So there you go.
Yes, so, yeah, as expected. So 3 teammates coming in at the same time. They decided to roll. Sorry, excuse me. They decided to roll the dice a little bit, and they're going to see what they can do with each other. It's going to be a thing of the teammates are going to have to decide when to come in, and of course, pitting now, as we've got a car around.
Yeah, it's Greg Spence, sorry, but it doesn't look like it's going to call out the caution.
No, he's just had a moment as
bring it up on screen.
Looks like JCW's just given a little bit of contact there, just spun him around, and the little aero flaps have done their job. He's just got a bit of biff into the barrier, but no major damage there for Spencer, thankfully, but that's going to cost him a little bit. But importantly, it doesn't bring out a caution. If it did, that could have been a godsend for somebody like Pearson.
Yeah, I was about to say. They would have been loving it.
Although, for some reason, has Daiso and Otto both got a penalty because they have had a long pit stop.
They were in pit lane for a long time, so potentially the case.
Yeah, I'd say they both got stopped. Both got some penalties. So that did not work out for DPR, because that's left Neil Pearson out there all on his lonesome, and he is going to fall down a lap. He is just getting absolutely swarmed at the moment. So that did not work out well. The team were trying to get something working there, but it did not work for them, because 2 cars got a penalty. This is the trouble pitting under green, because you do come in at a vast rate of knots, and it is very easy to make a mistake and speed in pit lane. And both Dyson and Otto both getting caught out with that one, both getting a pit lane speeding penalty, both in pit lane for 1 minute 20 seconds. So they absolutely got penalised for that, and that really cost the team a chance, because they were going to try and work together in a trio, see what they could do with each other, and hope for a caution or something like that. That really has hurt them.
Yeah, not ideal at all, but you've got to do it at some stage, and it's either going to sink you or help you swim. And in that particular case, no good at all. Carl, it's about time for some trivia, and tonight I'm going to flip the lid on you. I'm going to ask you a question about Talladega.
You're just being mean to me tonight, yeah.
And ask you what year, and I'll ask the chat as well, what year did Talladega open?
Now, Talladega or Alabama Speedway?
Dega, as we know it.
Okay, I'll give the chat
Alabama, what was formerly known as Alabama International Motor Speedway. So, as it is. I'll give you a clue. It was in the 60s. So I'll give you the decade at least.
I'm letting chat have a go quickly.
As everyone Googles, absolutely. I was going to say this has gone on way too long now, but that's okay. And there it is. Aaron Dillon jumps in with 69, which is the answer.
Yeah, I was just wanting to let the chat have that one, because unfortunately I have those up on my screen because I have them ready to go. So
I was going to say,
I was hoping it would be something that would be a little bit trickier, and I was hoping you would have gone. What's the year it was renamed to Talladega? Because yeah.
Oh, there you go. So I haven't unpipped you at all, and the chat obviously got it all done there. But there you go. That's about as good as it gets for me on the fly. If it was to do with something else, then I'd probably have a little bit more of a chance. But I was just trying to turn it up a little bit here. What did you have prepped tonight, Carl? Do you have any questions to throw out there?
I did, but we're about to get some green flag pit stops, I'd say, so I'll wait until this works its way out.
Well, we've got Daniel Heddersheet, Gary Wellman, Kate Donnelly and Matty Hunter in pit lane as we speak. So once this, again, as usual, spot on. A few of those drivers jumping in.
We'll wait until these cycle through, and then we'll go with it as the main group starts to come in, and big on the brakes they go. Who's going to make it work?
Yeah!
Oh, there's contact. Micklemore gets contact in the back from Raymond Yeager there. Raymond Yeager was the last of the late breakers. It looks like Paul Jackson went across the grass. So Jackson went across the grass. Will he get a penalty for that one? We'll find out soon. A few drivers just really late on the brakes. They're trying to get the best entry and exit they can, because that's going to be something that could win them the race tonight.
Yeah, the way that it is.
Who's going to come out first?
Absolutely, and tyres being taken as well there by Martin. Which is interesting. It looks like Stockton might have got the jump here. He has. So Stockton out in front. So is Danny G. That's an interesting change up there.
And Hartigan as well. Hartigan had a really good stop too. So
looks like Gallagher and Martin both took tyres. But Stockton there, from what I saw, not taking tyres. He's jumped them both. Danny G as well has jumped. So could we see it again? He gets up into the podium positions.
Matty Ray, Ben Vickers, Stephen Williams, Josh Carroll and Norman Clark all in pit lane as well now. So again, it's going to be seeing how this one goes. So yeah, it's going to be really, really close. But this has broken up the Mitch Motorsport train. This is very much broken up because Micklemore now has Jason Hardigan on his tail with Raymond Yeager. So that's changed things up a little bit. So he no longer has his teammates behind him. Danny G in 4th position. Damon Stockton in 5th at the moment, with Jason Martin in 6th. 7th is Hamish Gallagher. 8th, Aidan Schultz. 9th, Edward Foster. And 10th is Matty Ray. I've currently got on my board, but those things will change relatively shortly as things get up to speed and things settle down a little bit. So we'll wait until everything does start to settle down a little bit. But this has changed the race a bit.
Has. So the pack's the same, but the makeup of it's a little bit different. Just gonna have to stick it out for a little bit here. We've got 25 to go.
And just see that Paul Jackson just getting past. He had to take a penalty, so going across the grass it caught him a penalty, so he has been cost dearly in those pit stops. So he's gone down a lap, so that really cost him a lot of time getting that penalty there. And that's one of the things about the green flag pit stops here at Dega, is you're coming in at a vast rate of knots, and it is very easy to have a big mistake happening.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So interesting there to see if those tyres make any difference at all. So Jason Martin and Hamish Gallagher looking to have both taken tyres in their stop. Which is why we've now got this shuffle.
So yeah, that's going to be something that could come into effect later in the race, of course, as tyre wear might come into play a little bit. With those slightly fresh tyres, they may give them a slight bit of an advantage. But as we said, it's a super speedway, so generally tyres don't make much of a difference. As long as they are round and on the car, that's all you need for them to work at this place.
Absolutely. Josh Mickelmore there, just looking pretty casual. Look out the back, you can see there Jason Hardigan all over the back of Mickelmore. Not a lot to do at this point in time. We're looking for some reinforcements, but they are a long way down. Edward Foster in 9th position off the back of the pack, so that gap we were talking about earlier on that can form, you can see it there, our lead pack of 7 cars, and then a whopping 5.5 second gap back to Aidan Schultz in 8th. So this is where the race is at, naturally at the front of the field, but without another caution there is very little chance that Schultz and Foster, particularly as a pairing, will catch back up to this lead group.
It's going to be tricky here. It's sort of going to need something to happen. Something to happen for this to come out. And there's a bit of battling going on a bit further back between Kay Donnelly and Luke Traher. They are side by side at the moment, getting very close to each other. Mirko Dortnack just sitting there as Kay Donnelly just slides underneath, just gets onto the back of Luke Traher there and just starts to give him a little bit of getting in the bubble. So that's going to help with their speed a little bit. And try and catch up to some of the drivers in front of them. So they'll see what they can do there, but everybody is very broken up now, as you would expect with the green flag stops, but it is still that man, Josh Mickelmore, in the lead. He is doing another fantastic job and being quite dominant tonight.
Yeah, well, this is where he's gonna earn his crust, because closest teammates in 4th. But of course, there are, of the top 7 cars for Mitch Motorsport entries, so numbers are on their side for a Mitch Motorsport victory.
Yeah, 4 bullets in their chamber. So, quick question now. So we'll go back to the usual format. We'll go to the audience for this one to allow them to get their Google working. Of course, what used to be at the site of the Talladega track? What was it formerly before it was a racing track?
That's an interesting question.
And it wasn't a dance hall.
No, well, we did cop that, of course.
That may have been another question. No, not.
Well, there you go. I glue straight onto it. No surprises.
Absolutely, yeah. A US Air Force base. Was actually one of the homes where they were training the B-29 crews back in the day. So it was a heavy bomber training ground towards the end of its life. It used to be a US Army Air Force base before then, but was mainly used for training circumstances. Based out in Alabama. And I guess another quick question we can have, of course, is whereabouts is the track situated? Of course. What town is it in, effectively? See if you can get that one, Stuart.
Oh, I knew Highglue was going to jump in with the answer, because I also knew they lived nearby, so popped in with Lincoln.
Yeah, that's it. It's a bit of a trick question, because people usually just go, well,
it's Talladega. Obviously, Carl, it's Talladega.
It was Talladega was used because it sounded better. Vegas sounds much better than Lincoln, so yeah.
Can only question why that might be the case, given the track's location.
There you go.
There you go. So that fastest qualifying lap, Carl, you were talking about, that the record held there, 212.8 miles per hour, was the fastest qualifying lap record. Obviously not by time, but they don't generally look at that. They look at miles per hour. So that is whopping pace in a car with no aero, basically tiny tyres, no brakes, and a whole heap of horsepower. So scary, scary pace there. It's well over 300 kilometres an hour.
Well, it's technically the official one because Rusty Wallace holds the unofficial one at 216 miles per hour. It's in a non-sanctioned race, of course. So in the NASCAR sanctioned race, 212.8 miles per hour. Rusty Wallace holds the sort of unsanctioned one at 216, and of course, good friend of mine, Mr. Gilles de Ferran, holds the close course record of 241 miles per hour, close course average lap speed record. Fontana, of course.
Ridiculous. So, and that was in 87 that official record was set as well. So when I said no aero, no brakes, etc., it doesn't get much more no aero, no brakes, no nothing else than the 87 cars. So,
well, Talladega is well known for its speed. It was the first stock car, well, it's where the first stock car broke the 200 mile per hour mark at 200 miles per hour, 200.4 miles per hour. Back in the 1970s with the Dodge Charger. So the first place to break the 200 mile per hour mark in a stock car in America. So it definitely has some speed to it, this place.
So Heigl is suggesting an interesting strategy in the chat here. Obviously there's four Mitch Motorsport cars in this lead pack. Could they form a second line together and then move away? It would be 4 versus 3. So
honestly, from what we've seen tonight and what I've spoken to the drivers and what I've sort of done and seen in the very mild little bit of testing I did, it's probably not possible, as sad as that sounds. The amount of time they might lose is it might be very hard to actually make those positions back up. The aero on these cars is really, especially since the last update, there has been a little bit of a tweak in a few things, and it's made things very, very hard to actually work. The cars are much more settled than they used to be, which you can see as they're all running in a line. When we were back here last week with the Xfinity cars, they were very much, you just sort of got behind another car and you were basically fighting the steering wheel like it was a game of Punch-Out. But with these Cup cars, they are much more stable to drive. But unfortunately, as soon as you jump out of the train, you really lose out. The fact that there are so few cars up in the line, then maybe they could make it work. But the fact that Josh Mickelmore would need to jump out of it and give the lead to Jason Hartigan, Raymond Yeager would jump up there, and Damon Stockton, they would possibly be able to sort of lock it out, and it might actually cause the Mitch Motorsport cars to drop back at maybe 3 spots and not be able to get them back. So it could be a risk that they might want to take, but honestly, I think they're going to be happy with how they're sitting at the moment. They're sat relatively in a good spot as it sits, and of course there is a championship to think about in this respect as well. So championship points are looking good because it's for chase positions in this main pack, it is only Mitch Motorsport cars.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Obviously, Ed Foster down in 8th position at the moment, so and you can't see that changing too much upwards given the 13-second margin now to the lead pack. So here it might be just as much about banking points as about the result.
Yeah, it's one of those things you sort of come down to that thinking of championships sometimes, and it's drivers are often drivers. You might see somebody like Jason Hardigan and Raymond Yeager try for a bit of a run at the end on that last lap, see what they can do. But I honestly think this might be what we see towards the end, unless we have something major happen, which of course is always a possibility in motorsport. We never know when that giant fluffy cat will come running across the circuit, bat a few cars off, and cause absolute chaos.
Or even just something as simple as the commentator's curse.
Yes, that's it. The commentator's curse often works. We won't see another caution tonight. Let's see how that goes. But yeah, a lot of cars still trying to get some packs working, but just nothing's really working for those guys out there, and it's really no man's land for Foster at the moment and Aiden Schultz. They're sort of stuck in a position where they have absolutely nothing that they can do. Matty Ray's up there with Stevie Williams and Ben Vickers, and they're trying to catch up to those cars, but just really unable to do anything. There's such big gaps out there. It's just very much scattered.
Yeah, it is. So it's Phil Otto there, just letting everyone through. A bit of damage, unfortunately, tonight, Phil. So it's doing the right thing. Trying to jump onto the pack here to get himself going again. But Mickelmore, Hardigan, Jaeger. It's been a while since we've seen Jaeger in the top 3. Same with Hardigan as well. So they'll be looking to make bank here.
Yeah, it'll be a good, strong finish for Jaeger tonight. He'd be pretty happy with that one.
It's Danny G there just getting some air on the front of the 24. And they're just starting to space out. So hopefully this doesn't fall apart. Doesn't look like those tyres have made a great deal of difference, unfortunately. Potentially a mistake there. They might have just not managed to get them unselected.
Yeah, that's sometimes the case. I mean, you know, it's tricky to do when you're driving, when you're concentrating, when you're doing all those things. Luckily, if you've sort of qualified high up the field, it's not too bad because you've got a nice long pit road that you can actually click the buttons on. But if you're a bit further down the pit lane, sometimes you can't unselect all the options, and in that case, you can be a little bit stuck for position. Just I agree, bringing up another good fact, the banking of 33 degrees. You know, if your car's running slower than about 50 miles per hour, you're just going to slide down it, which just shows just how high the banking is. You know, it doesn't look much when you look at it on the screens, but it is ridiculously steep, these places.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look like much at all, but I did see that.
Just watching just a little bit further back with Foster, he's just backing up a little bit with Aiden Schultz just to make another pack with Matty Raymond, Steve Williams, Ben Vickers. So he's actually just, him and Aiden Schultz just decided to ease off a little bit. They're just slowing down a tiny bit just to allow that other pack to catch up to them, to try and do something towards the end of this race, see if they can actually make up a bit of time. We've got 8 laps remaining, so they are running out of time, but there's about a 16-second gap to that lead pack. If they can eat into it a little bit, and if there's a bit of a mistake on that lead pack, then they could be into something right here. So they're just trying to sort of hook up together and make a decent running pack together and see what they can achieve tonight, because at the moment they've got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the point is, if they don't do anything, then nothing's going to change. I guess for Foster, he's the biggest at risk. Introducing other cars, he could quite just happily run and take 8th position. But trying to make sure that if there is something there, they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, as we said, you've got to be in it to win it at the end of it. And look, if something happens, then it's better to be slightly closer to the front than further away. So they lost a bit of time by doing that, so they've lost a handful of time just linking up with them. I think they were about 15 seconds behind. Now they're about 18 seconds behind. But they're going to try and link it up and get a little bit of running pack together. So Foster, Schultz, Raymond and Stevie Dubb.
Yeah, they've almost got to hope that maybe Martin and Gallagher drop off the back of this lead pack.
Well, all it takes is a bit of a tank slapper and that's it, and it can drop you down quite quickly. And as soon as you lose that pack, you're going to just come tumbling down, especially if there's a secondary pack forming behind you that's capable of getting a little bit of air on themselves. So they could manage something right here. We'll see how it goes. As just up at the front, Danny G just having to get out of it a little bit just to get some air on the front of that car, because he seems to be struggling with the heat again. So Danny G just having to get out of it, and that's just lost him a little bit of time over over Raymond Jaeger. Just dropped him back a tiny little bit. He shouldn't be too far off, so he should be able to gain up to that again in a relatively short time. But he is definitely having to get some fresher air on that car. So cooling is coming into effect a little bit here now. Of course, Josh Micklemore doesn't have to worry about that at all. He's got lovely cool air going into the very tiny little radiator slit at the front of that car, but everybody behind will be getting a little bit hot.
Raymond Jaeger there, right up behind Jason Hardigan, so he's been doing that for a while. This is where things could go wrong as well. We can't rule out mechanical failure because it can happen.
Well, we saw that with the Xfinity cars with Hamish Gallagher trying to push his teammates along. He ended up blowing his motor on the last lap, and you know, it can absolutely happen. And you know, it's don't cross that line, it's going to be very, very painful. A blown engine, especially if it's somebody like Jason Hardigan, Raymond Jaeger, or Danny G up at the front of this pack, if that blows, then that's going to affect the cars behind them as well. So that could really throw a cat amongst the pigeons.
Absolutely, it could. Absolutely the case. So, but we've got 4 to go here. Have one caution.
Just watching Raymond Jaeger just drop back a little bit here. Just drop back a little bit to try and get a little bit of a run on Jason Hardigan here. So I think we're going to see Jaeger try and make a move right now. He's trying to get it done. Can't quite make it work, and this could be Danny G's chance. If he can get underneath Jaeger, this could work. Look at Jason Martin and Hamish Gallagher. They're trying to break free onto that second line. They're seeing what they can do up there. They're going to see if they can start pushing their way forwards. And you can see now it's go time. Danny G jumping up there as well. So that high line has formed now. There's 4 cars up there. So it is go time with 2.5 laps remaining. They're going to see what they can do. But you can see Danny G's just dropped back from Raymond Jaeger right there and just losing out time. They just could not get it working that well. But those 3 Mitch cars are now linked together. So those 3 Mitch cars are linked together. So they're going to try and get a run of it right now. And what Jaeger has to do is try and keep in front of them or block them a little bit. And look at Danny G again, trying to get it out there, trying to get it up past. And what Josh Micklemore can do now is just breathe off the throttle a little bit to give his teammates a little bit of a run. So he can give a little bit of an advantage here for those Mitch Motorsport cars on the high line to help them out a little bit, to try and get them up in front of the cars behind him. But he's got to try and not lose that P1 now, because it's going to get very, very close. Danny G trying to get down in front of Jason Hardigan, can't quite make it work. Danny G getting a really good run here, can't quite get down in front of Hardigan. Hardigan just being the fly in the ointment at the moment, just blocking it off a tiny bit and making it so Danny G can't slide in there. Hardigan's just got to stick right to the back of Josh Micklemore's tail right here, so Danny G can't slip it in there. Meanwhile, Danny G has just got his nose ahead of Micklemore at the moment, and this is going to give him the lead of the races. Oh, it's contact! We've got contact between Hardigan and Micklemore. Disastrous! Danny G keeps going. We haven't got a caution flag out as it's the last lap. Danny G keeps going. So Danny G has got the lead of the race right here. Disaster for Micklemore and Hardigan there as they make contact with each other. Danny G is going to keep trucking along. He's got half a lap to go here at Talladega. Just behind him is Josh Micklemore. It didn't work out too badly for him, but Damon Stockton will have a bit of a run on him here. So Stockton might be able to get P2. Stockton's got an absolute flyer here. He gets past there, and Stockton's going to take P2 from Josh Micklemore. It's going to be Danny G crossing the line, taking the victory here at Talladega. Mitch Motorsport wins, but it wasn't the one we thought it was going to be as Danny G crosses the line. Damon Stockton finishes second, and Josh Micklemore in third. Raymond Jaeger finishes in fourth. Jason Hardigan takes home P5.
And Martin's way down, unfortunately for Jason. He's ended up, and there's a blown motor in front of him there. It's going to be Paul Witcher, I believe. Paul Jackson, my apologies, I believe. So, and Martin there, that car damaged, and he ends up finishing in 15th.
Yeah, Gallagher fell back as well from that one. The one to watch out for is Aidan Schultz. He just pulled an absolute robbery on Foster. He was sitting there helping Foster out all night, and then just him and Matty Raymond just absolutely robbed Foster of that position, sneaking their way through, getting a really nice run to the line. Stevie Dubb tried to make the move for it, didn't quite make it work, so Foster finished 8th in the end, up 10 positions. But Danny G, again, just sneaking it in there at the end and taking his first win of the season. And a well-deserved win for Danny G of Mitch Motorsport.
It's just a replay here of that pass on Foster that you're talking about. Say Schultz and Mr. Sheen, Matty Ray getting through and getting the job done there on that final lap. So lots of changes at the end there, but none bigger than the changes at the front, which has allowed Danny G to take out the race win. And he's now celebrating.
Second win of the season, sorry.
Absolutely,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because, of course, I had Hamish Gallagher on my mind, of course. It's only Hamish Gallagher that's not taken a win in the Cup Series this season. So Danny G takes his second victory this year, and he's done it in the chase as well, which is where you want to get those wins.
So he continues to just sneak his way up the order here. That'll be a good result for him from a personal perspective. Obviously, team-wise, not as good as he would have liked, but certainly good for him. Josh Micklemore in third, Damon Stockton second place. So that, out of everyone, benefits Edward Foster more than anyone, because it will slowly increase the gap from what it could have been had Micklemore won that race.
Yeah, disastrous for Jason Martin and Hamish Gallagher, though. They just really got caught up in it. Josh Micklemore got very lucky to keep that one pointing in the right direction and bringing it home at least in P3. Damage limitations there for Micklemore. But Danny G is going to be stoked about that victory there. And good run from Aidan Schultz as well. 13 positions gained in the race. One of the biggest gainers in the race, with himself, Danny G and Matt Hunter all taking out 13 positions gained in the race. Danny G, of course, taking the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're watching him get around now on the traditional reverse lap. Should have a flag option out the window there, I think, in iRacing. That needs to be added to the mix.
Something to add to the future, you know, just the old flags for these kind of events.
Absolutely. You want to be able to hold the flag out the window. It's only fair. He's done a ripping job here tonight. He just quietly made his way up as well. So, yeah, plenty of other stuff to work on before we get to the flags, as the chat's saying about making it a little bit more challenging, or competitive, I should say, is probably the right word for it, for our drivers. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of commentary around that in the chat when we get our top three in. Danny G, Damon Stockton, Josh Micklemore, just waiting for the Mitch Motorsport boys to enter the fray. As I say that, they do. So let's get them in here into the chat and have a chat with them, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start off with a slightly surprised P3 finish. Josh Micklemore, it was running so well there until the end.
Yeah, you know what these races are like, man. Bloody lottery.
Well, it looked like it was an absolute disaster for you there at the end, but somehow you still managed to finish in P3.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, man. I know what the 51 car's like, so yeah, he hasn't changed since the last saw him. But anyway, yeah, until then it wasn't a too bad race at the front. It was pretty boring, actually, sitting out the front, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you had a pleasant view at least. You weren't having to look at anybody else's rear end of their car for the night. Obviously, it looked tricky out there, and we heard a lot of people mentioning the trouble with the cars tonight, just unable to really get that second line working.
Yeah, like you guys see in the broadcast, everyone was pretty well one line until the end there, and yeah, it was just like it was a couple of years ago. It was a patch where it's just the fixed setup was all just all single file. You couldn't really do much, so seemed like it was very similar tonight again.
Yeah, very unfortunate, but I mean, damage limitation, as damage limitation goes, P3 is not a terrible place to finish.
Yeah, it's not a terrible spot to finish, but yeah, is what it is, mate. It's bloody Talladega at the end of the day as well, so you know it's a lottery.
That's it, and of course, big question is have you got both eyes back now?
Yeah, that was all right. Yeah, it's full good now. So yeah, thanks for asking.
That's the important stuff. So back to seeing with both eyes. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you need to put an eye patch on because. You seem to be doing well with just a single eye. No, congratulations to that, Josh. Obviously not the finish you would have wanted, but again, a strong finish for Mitch Motorsport with 2 cars in the top 3 there. Danny G taking the victory. Just absolutely sneaking away in there, but really strong performance from you tonight. And obviously this is going to be good for chase standings as well.
Yeah, definitely needed some points. Last week, a bit of a rough run. So, yeah, definitely needed the points, though. So, yeah, we'll see how we go. We've got a road course coming up in a couple of weeks' time, so got a bit of practice to do before that one. But, yeah, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep moving on.
Well, good luck for the rest of it, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Before I let you go, Josh, the usual thing is shout out and love to sponsors.
Yeah, just good job to Daniel for the win. Bad luck to the other boys. BK Designs, FGM eCast, you guys for putting on a hell of a show. Streamer, and ANZCAR as well, producing the best league in Australia.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Josh. Hopefully we'll catch you again soon.
All right, cheers, fellas.
Next up, we head to the 696. It's been a while since we've seen you in the top 5, Mr. Stockton, but you've managed to get a P2 tonight. Congratulations on that one.
Yeah, well, cheers, mate. No, that's all right. Can't complain with that.
Pretty good result in the end. I mean, look, you were running up in that front pack pretty much all night. You looked to have some really good pace out there, and you were in the right place at the right time at the end.
Yeah, well, those Mitch boys behind and in front, yeah, I got surprised by that second line coming around the outside. So I spat it out there, and then I ducked it back in, and then I was in no man's land, and then they crashed, which was great. Gave me a shot.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you know, when you saw everything going wrong in front of you there, I imagine there would have been a moment of deep inhalation of breath.
Yeah, mate. Deep breath, wheel straight, off the gas, and hope for the best.
Yeah, you did get a little bit of a ping pong action through there as well, a little bit of a tap from side to side, but managed to keep you going in a straight line. And I imagine towards the end there, when you sort of were coming round on that final lap and you all of a sudden saw Micklemore in front of you, you must have been just rubbing your eyes in disbelief.
Yeah, I was celebrating for the third already coming out of that, and then, yeah, saw the slow car and was pretty happy.
No, look, fantastic result, and look, keeping the chase pretty locked out is with, what, 4 of the 3 chase races now with DPR and Mitch Motorsport cars up there. It's been good for you guys, for those teams. Good result for you, though. I mean, obviously, it's not been the easiest of seasons for you, but getting a P2 tonight must be a big weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, mate, I don't have to worry about the chase, not in it, so just go out, have some fun, got a P2 out of it.
But congratulations, Mr. Stockton. Before I let you go, the usual thing of shout out and love to sponsors.
Yeah, no, just major thanks to you guys and ANZCAR. I've been giving Eddie a bit of a hard time lately, but yeah, no, does a good job. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again on the P2.
Cheers, mate.
Next up, we will head to a race winner. Possibly a little bit of a surprise for him, but it was looking good even despite the crash. Mr. Danny G, congratulations on the second win of the Cup Series this year.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. Cheers. Awesome.
You must be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it all happened a bit weird, but yeah, I thought I had a good shot at the end there anyway, and then I felt the back of my car sort of wiggle a little bit, and I looked in the mirror, and everyone was wrecking, and after that, the concern was, who's going to have the momentum if there's 2 cars left to sort of drive past me? But I looked at the relative times, and everyone had dropped off, and I knew I was home at about turn 3.
Well, you've done it again. You just snuck up there from sort of nowhere in qualifying. You qualified midfield, and we're just sneaking away quietly throughout the night, not really making too many big moves, and then by the end of it, you've come up onto the podium, and this time up to the top step.
Yeah, we had well, Jason and Hamish and I sort of had a plan on how to get to the front there towards the end, which worked really well. That's sort of what got us up there. So that was really cool teamwork, and that all happened. It was yeah, I'm not too sure what happened at the end. I haven't seen the replay, but yeah, it kind of sucks for the boys. I thought, yeah, we're going to get hopefully all 4 or top 4 or all in the top 5, but it doesn't look like that happened.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, it's we almost saw the Mitch boys lock out the top 4. It almost happened, but it just means you've got another night to do it in. So you just got to do it next time out. So it just gives you something else to aim for. But working your way through the field, how hard was that tonight with the way the cars were acting?
Yeah, you couldn't do much. You pretty much just just single file basically, just putting along, getting towards the end of the race, like the last 5 laps to make a move. That's the shame about these sort of racetracks. It's just a lot of endurance of just circling around, waiting for that opportunity. But me personally, I don't bother trying to make those moves too early. I just don't see the point. It always ends up in disaster. So you just got to work it out to the very end. And yeah, tonight we managed to get there pretty much right on the millimetre. I think if I was a millimetre back, I would have gotten tagged by Josh.
Yeah, very much so. It was very, very close indeed. You scraped by the skin of your teeth through that one. Obviously, this is pretty good news for chase positions as well.
Yeah, I came in 10th, pretty much out of it. I'm not too sure what this will do, but it should put me back up, hopefully, towards the top 5 or getting up there anyway. But I don't really care about that. A win's a win, and that's, yeah, I'm just wrapped in that. That's awesome.
So that's the main thing for you, getting those wins. And look, a great victory tonight. And obviously, Talladega is one of those tracks that everybody wants to win at, because it is such a historic name in the old stock car racing. And you've got that one under your belt now. You've got the W next to your name here at Talladega. So congratulations, Danny G.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Before I let you go, the usual thing of shout out and love to sponsors.
Yeah, Bob King for the paints, Mitch Motorsports, Jace, Josh, Hamish, and you guys up in the broadcast booth, putting on the best stock car racing in Australia.
Look, you're always welcome. Thank you so much, Danny G. Always a pleasure to have you up here, and hopefully we'll see you again before the season ends.
Thank you.
Cheers, boys. So, Stuart, Talladega is done. We have got another race under our belt. And it may not have been a complete classic tonight, but we did see some good racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, as marked as it is for the lack of passing, it was nice, clean driving for a majority of the race there as well. So that is what we come to expect. And we're going to head out next week to Charlotte Roval. In fact, it's not next week. It is in another week's time. We've got a week off next week, but the next time out is to Charlotte Roval, and that presents a completely different picture for the drivers. So expect to see DPR, simrigs.com team make a resurgence at that track. So a completely different set of circumstances faces in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Dyson is going to be trying for the trifecta. He's got the win in the truck. He's got the win in the Xfinity. Can he do it in the Cup next time out? So putting the absolute curse on Mr. Dyson there. So sorry about that, Dyson. You can blame me for that when something goes wrong for you. But no, can he do the trifecta and get the win at the Roval next time out? Of course, very different beast to have. And then we have an off week after that. But it's going to be a very fun week next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So, starting out with the trucks at Dover as well. Sorry, my apologies. No, the trucks at Dover as well. So we're back to Dover for the trucks on Monday before the Ozpram Sim Series kicks off for Season 5 on Tuesday. So that's going to be a fun one as well. Then Xfinity cars and back with the Cup. So that does conclude our week, and what a week it has been. Plenty of highlights, packages coming through. Big shout out to everyone who jumped on and liked and followed our YouTube channel, subscribed to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for your support, and to everyone in the chat as well. Appreciate you jumping in this evening and keeping us entertained throughout this race. But we'll be back on Monday night again on FGM eCast, your E-Place for Pace. We appreciate your support, and Carl, enjoy your weekend. I'll catch you again on Monday.